3.3 day 2 is taking decimals and turning them into fractions. Okay, let's go ahead and fill this little sentence out up here. You can write a terminating decimal, remember terminating means it stops, as a fraction or mixed number by writing the portion of the digits to the right of the decimal as a fraction. Guys and girls, this really isn't too bad. There's not a lot of work you're going to have to do. As long as you can read numbers correctly and simplify fractions, this day should be great for you. Right here it says, write each decimal as a mixed number or a fraction in simplest form. Well, this one starts off as a 0. You would read this as 6/10. That's how you write it as a fraction. 6/10 would look like this, 6 over 10. And then you just reduce it. What goes into 6 and 2, or 6 and 10? Well, I just told you it's 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 10 divided by 2 is 5. What goes into 3 and 5? Nothing. So this is your answer for number 1. See? I think it's a lot easier than going fraction to decimal. I think it takes a little less work. Now, number 2, you would read this as 1 and 325 thousandths. So here's how you write this. This is a mixed number because it's got a number on the left side of the decimal. You would write this as 1 and then 325 thousandths. Looks like that. Now, that's going to get you half credit on any assignment or assessment you do because that fraction will reduce. Now, the whole number is going to stay 1. But what would go into 325 and 1,000? Well, you might think 5, and that's right. So let's look at 325. I don't know this very well on the top of my head, so I am going to get out a piece of scratch paper and do 325 divided by 5. 5 goes into 32 6 times. Subtract 6 times 5 is 30. Remainder of 2. Drop down the 5. 5 goes into 25 exactly 5 times. So we get 65 in the numerator. And 5 into 1,000. Well, I would expect some of you to know that in your head, but if you don't, 5 goes into 10 2 times. And you're like, oh, 0 remainder. No, it doesn't work like that. You got to drop these other zeros down. How many 5s go into 0? 0. Drop him down. 5's into 0. 0. So it's 200. Now wait. There's still something else that you can divide both of those by. They would divide by 5 again. Well, if you are unsure, get your scrap paper out. And 65 goes in the box. 5 goes out. 5 goes into 6 once. 15 3 times, and it goes in exactly. So your numerator is now going to be 13. And how many 5s go into 2? 0. 20, it'd go in exactly 4 times. And don't forget that other 0, 5 would go into 0 0 times. So this answer is now going to be 1 and 13/40. That is the exact same thing as 1 and 325 thousandths. It is the exact same thing as 1.325. They're just all written a little differently. Let's try number 3. 0.66. Well, we read that as 66 hundredths. So you would put 66 over 100. And 2 will definitely go into both. 66 divided by 2. Well, just think, when you divide by 2, you're cutting something in half. If you cut 66 in half, you get 33. Cut 100 in half, you would get 50. 33 over 50, nothing will go into both of those. So this would be your answer for number 3. Let's do one more together. Let's look at number 5 in the middle of the page. 2.48, or 2 and 48 hundredths. So I'm going to start over here. 2 and 48 over 100. What would go into both? Well, 2 works. Leave the whole number of 2. Cut 48 in half and you get 24. Over, cut 100 in half, you get 50. What goes into 24 and 50? 2 again. So remember, you're cutting everybody in half. Cut this in half and you get 12. Cut 50 in half and you get 25. 12 and 25, they do not have anything else in common. So this would be our answer for number 5. Now, there's one thing I want to point out. Some of you might have said, Miss Toll, when you were here, you could have just divided by 4. You're exactly right. I divided by 2 and 2 again. 2 times 2 is 4. So if you would have started here and divided by 4, you would have completely eliminated that middle step. And that is the best. We always like to try to find the biggest number that goes into both. You try the remaining 5 problems that kind of make a U here, a horseshoe for the Colts. Pause the video, check your 5 answers. I've put boxes around the 5 that you need to check, and if you need more time, pause the video now, because we are going on to comparing decimals and fractions. Also, I would recommend getting a scrap sheet of paper to do these problems. That's what I'm going to do these 3 down here at the bottom, because it says, in order to compare fractions and decimals, convert all numbers to decimals. And you're going to have to show some work when you take a fraction and turn it into a decimal. So it says order from, how does it say to order? Least to greatest. So smallest to largest. Now, I've gone ahead and written all these out on another sheet of paper, and this is how I would recommend writing each problem out. I've set up each number in number 1, 7/8, 35 hundredths, 8 fifteenths, and 862 thousandths, because I've got to make them all decimals. If they're already a decimal, I'm just going to go ahead and rewrite them like this. But then 7/8 I've got to convert to a decimal. We learned how to do that yesterday. So top in, bottom out. How many 8s go into 7? 0. 8 will go into 70, let's see, 9 times 8 is 72, 8 times 8, 8 times 8 is 64, that'll work. 70 minus 64 is 6, drop down your 0. 8 will go into 60, let's see, 7 times, so subtract 60 minus 56 would be 4. Drop down another 0. We don't see a repeating pattern, so hopefully this ends. 8 will go into 40 5 times, and it goes in exactly. So 7/8 is the same as 0.875. And then we need to convert 8 fifteenths the exact same way. So top in, bottom out. 15 goes into 8 0 times. 15 will go into 80. Well, let's see. 15 times 2 is 30. 15 times 3 is 45. 15. Okay, let's try 15 times 5. That would be 75. Okay, that works out nicely. So subtract 75. 80 minus 75 is 5. 0 placeholder. 15 will go into 50 3 times, and that's 45. Remainder of 5. 0, drop it down. 15 goes into 53 times. This is a little curious. And we get a 5 again. So it's repeating that 3. So it is 0.533. And I could put the repeating bar over both of them. I could just put it over 1, 0.53 repeating, same thing. Order these from least to greatest. Well, this is like, think about these not as decimals. 875, 35, 533, 862. Well, the smallest would be 35, and it was originally 0.35. So I'm going to go back to my paper. 0.35 is the smallest. I cross it off there, cross it off here. The next smallest would be 0.53 repeating, which was originally 8/15. Cross it off, cross it off. Now, this is where it gets a little questionable. 862, 875. This is smaller. It was originally 0.862. Cross it off, which leaves us with 7/8 for the last place. Now, here's the thing about these. You get one number out of order, the entire problem is wrong. So taking a test or quiz, you might always want to double or triple check these. All right, let's do number 2 together and then 3 on your own. Number 2, I've already written it out on my separate sheet of paper. The nice thing is you've already got a decimal. Now, I like to just kind of write it 2 or 3 numbers after the decimal if it's one of those repeating ones. We need to convert 6/15, so do a division problem, top in, bottom out. 5 would go into 16 3 times, and you would get a remainder of 1. Put your decimal in a 0. 5 goes into 10 exactly 2 times, so this is 3.2. And then this last one, we know it's got a 3 to the left of the decimal. We need to convert the fraction of 5/6. 6 goes into 5 0 times. 6 goes into 50 8 times. 48. 50 minus 48 is 2. Drop down. 6 goes into 23 times. 2. 6 goes into 23 times. Remainder of 2. So it's repeating the 3. So you've got 0.83 repeating. Okay, let's put them in order, least to greatest. 366, 320, 383. Well, there's your lowest number, and it was 6/15 from the get-go. Cross it off, cross it off. This would be next. It was 3.6 repeating. And the only thing left would be 3 and 5/6. Okay, try the last one on your own. Remember, you have to show work. Here's the answer to number 3, 0.4, 9/20, 0.83, and 7/8. Now, notice, I didn't do the work for 7/8 because we already did it back in problem number 1. And if you've done the work for that problem on the same paper already, then you don't need to show it to me again. But I did show my work for 9/20 because I hadn't done it yet. Now, there is a back side that you need to go and complete on your own. If you do not complete it, I will not count your notes as being turned in on time. So please go do it and show your work. Good luck.